This is my house.
Hello there, and I'm back on Doctor Who again. I would have thought there wouldn't be any news to tell, as there hasn't been an episode since Christmas, but it seems I would be wrong in that, because as you may have gathered from the thumbnail, according to a lot of reporting, it seems the actress Millie Gibson, who played Ruby Sunday in the Christmas special, may have left the show already. Or the whole story may not even be true. And I'll get to why, because if you follow the story back to its origins, in a nutshell, it's a story without a primary source. It all comes down to quotes from an unnamed insider. But if Millie Gibson is going, it's a feat, because the series she's due to appear in season 14 hasn't even aired yet, and I like nothing about this story. Season 14 is slated to appear in May 2024. She was in the Christmas special, and it appears she may have gone already, after one episode, to be replaced by this actress, Varada Sethu, who was in Andor, supposedly. Now, I watched Andor, and I quite liked it, and I do not remember this actress at all, which is maybe not a good sign. But at least she seems to have a bit of experience, which is good. So maybe welcome the Doctor's new companion, whatever her name was. Vashtanarada? But what's going on over there in Cardiff? And why, according to the reporting, is Millie Gibson allegedly going? Well, one source seems to be the British newspaper The Daily Mail, who don't have the best track record. They are, let's say, quite right-leaning. In 1934, they ran this story. And if you don't know who the Black Shirts were, they were essentially the British version of the Nasty Party. And that article was written by one of the founders of the paper, Viscount Rothermere. Oops. But that was a long time ago. They've changed. Maybe. A little bit. Okay, they may not have changed that much. And the Mail are citing an unnamed inside source, so nobody is even going on the record or putting their reputation on the line. So the entire story that a lot of people are reporting as fact could be entirely made up. And frankly, it's possible that nothing about the story is true, but the silence from the Doctor Who people when asked for comment is kind of suggestive it may be true. So what did this unnamed source say? They allegedly said the following in an article titled, "She's made her feelings clear. Doctor Who star Millie Gibson branded a diva after struggling to deal with night shoots since filming began in Cardiff. She's determined to get it right, but the days are long, and at times when night filming has been suggested, she has made her feelings clear. Millie is a pro on set, and although night shoots are part of the job, they can be tiring for even the most experienced actors. She won't be the first or last person to be a bit annoyed by a night shoot, but it has won her some snippy comments behind the scenes. The word diva has been used once or twice when tempers are fraying. So, it could be that she's difficult to work with, or had a falling out with some of the higher-ups on the show. But none of the articles I read are even citing the Daily Mail. The story other sources are citing is in a UK paper called the Daily Mirror, and I'm dubious about the whole thing, because it's in the Daily Mirror and their reputation frankly isn't great either. It's where Piers Morgan used to be the editor until 2004, when he got fired for printing some allegedly fake pictures of British soldiers abusing Iraqi prisoners on their front page. The Daily Mirror seems to be the source everything else is citing for their stories. Variety, Deadline, Screen Rant, all cite the Mirror, and the Mirror cite an unnamed inside source, so they're all citing an anonymous primary source. The Doctor Who people are not responding to requests for comment from Variety, and the Mirror's source is saying that the replacement, quote, "Varada is a real gem. Russell was just blown away by her talent. The cast and crew have really warmed to her, and he's sure the fans will too." It also said that Gibson has now almost finished on the show and will only be back to tie up loose ends in the coming weeks, according to insiders. Millie Gibson has all but left now, and there's a brand new companion, which is really exciting, one said. Russell is keeping things moving and isn't letting the grass grow, that's for sure. And this is when the story started to ring a bell for me, because I remembered a story I covered recently of Christopher Eccleston talking about what it would take for him to come back to the show.
Now, what would have to happen for that to become a reality?
Sack Russell T Davies, sack Jane Tranter, sack Phil Collinson, sack Julie Gardner, and I'll come back.
And he just named pretty much all of the producers on the show now. So why did he say that? Well, he's been a bit vague on the subject, saying things like, quote, I think it's fair to say that the first series nobody knows what they're doing and the politics are raging. The shooting of the first series was a nightmare. He added to Radio Times in 2018 referring to the producers he once sacked. They lost trust in me and I lost faith and trust and belief in them. He's also alluded to harassment and bullying going on during the filming of his one and only series of the show, and that he tried to report it and was ignored, and that's what's caused the breakdown in trust. So, what was the BBC's response to his complaints? Well, according to Eccleston, they blacklisted him from further BBC work. He claims this: "I made an agreement I would say nothing about my departure, and I honoured that because I was looking after the production." And he went on to say, and then the BBC issued a statement. They put a quote from me that they had written saying why I'd left, because I was tired, which any producer reading that will think, well, we won't give Chris Eccleston a job because he gets tired. So I threatened legal action and got an apology printed in all the newspapers. The BBC had to make a statement apologising for attributing quotes to me. Nobody will go on record saying this, but my agent said, "You'll need to get out of town because you're not going to get work." Obviously, when your career's been damaged in the way my career was damaged, forgiving them, being part of a hit show, why would you want to talk publicly about it, you know? So it sounds like he tried to do the right thing, and the BBC punished him for it, put out a fake quote in his name, blacklisted him and damaged his career. And that's starting to sound quite a lot like the treatment Gibson is currently getting. Anonymous briefs in the newspapers tarnishing her reputation and damaging her career, while praising how good to work with her replacement is. If that's what this is, I find it pretty hard to defend. Maybe Millie Gibson's a nightmare to work with, maybe she deserves it in some way, but they're not just damaging her, they're damaging the whole production. How are people going to get invested in her character in the upcoming season 14 when they already know she's left the show? Damaging your own show just to get back at Millie Gibson seems very childish and spiteful to me. So Millie Gibson may or may not be gone after just one episode, and the episode she got, I am highly suspicious, was just a rip-off of Labyrinth anyway. But I did find an interesting fact out about Labyrinth. Apparently the screenplay was written by Terry Jones of Monty Python Flying Circus fame. What a lad. So the whole story's been strange. The reaction to it's been strange. A lot of people are interpreting the unconfirmed story as just yet another diversity hire, and that's now a narrative that exists and is prevalent for pretty obvious reasons. But the strangest thing, as ever, is the hardcore Doctor Who fans, because some of them's response to this story was truly bizarre, because they'll downplay anything that they think could make the show look bad, including this story. I saw multiple people react to this story saying, "So what? All companions only last 1 or 2 seasons, nothing new here." And that's true. Well, all you need to do to make that true is ignore Billie Piper playing Rose Tyler. Oh, also Amy Pond, and Rory, and Jenna Louise Coleman playing Clara, and Elizabeth Sladen, and Sophie Aldred, and quite a lot more that did more than 2 seasons. When I pointed this out, the response was, the last 2 don't count because they were old Doctor Who, and the others didn't count because they stayed around for far too long in their opinion anyway. Doctor Who fans are so desperate to defend the show they will just make things up. I then got a response to that saying, quote, "Martha, Donna, Bill, Nardole and Dan say hello," from someone very sanely called Doctor Who Mania. Like that was a rebuttal. They wheeled that one out like it was a checkmate, like it was a masterstroke. But I'd never even argued that all companions lasted longer than 2 seasons, so they were arguing against a point that I didn't even make. Though in retrospect, I probably should have expected this from someone called Doctor Who Mania. That one's on me. And when I pointed that out, they said, well, your channel doesn't get many views. I swear it's like talking to a god from Skyrim. And why do you even need to defend Doctor Who from that? Even if the story is true and Millie Gibson is indeed leaving. It's not usual for a companion to leave before their first series has even aired. It's a bit strange. Just say, yeah, it's a bit odd. I wonder what happened. Why do you have to pretend like this is business as usual? And this is the way it always is, and act like a complete nutcase?
You know, I'm really wired. What do you say I take you home and eat your
I can't block out. Please lock out images of Johnny B getting his out. I can't do it. I can't do it tonight.
Jesus. Never rub another man's rhubarb.